Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. This video we are looking at the NFL final look for week number 4. We got some big news earlier today with the Patriots-Chiefs game being off the slate now with Cam Newton testing positive. Looks like that will be played on Tuesday night now. So just another game, take off the list. We started the week with 13. We're down to 11. Hopefully we don't lose any more, till 1 o'clock tomorrow. So let's get started with the video. As always, appreciate if you hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. See if we can get 150 likes on this video. I added the Fanduel pricing because people have been asking about Fanduel, so we'll touch on, which players are better plays on each site. But yeah, these are still the core group of guys that I like at each position, starting off with quarterback as always. And you can follow me on Twitter if you want. It's at the DFS process there. If you wanted to join, you can visit the website. Link is in the description. This week I'll be playing the early and afternoon only as well, in addition to the main. So just some extra slates. But starting off here at quarterback, we have Russell Wilson is 7,800. We lost two pretty viable and two quarterbacks that would have been in people's players pool with Mahomes and a very cheap Cam Newton. He was on this list. Had to take both of them out. So down to 5 guys here. Russell Wilson 7,800 against Miami. He's really expensive on FanDuel, so I don't think I'll get to him over there. But Draftkings, you got some good value plays at wide receiver. You got none of the top end wide receivers look like must plays, with Hopkins dealing with some injuries and Michael Thomas out now. So can go more expensive at quarterback if you want. You get Russell Wilson against a Miami team that gives up a ton of yardage on the season. They give up a ton of points. They give up a huge amount of big plays. Wilson has been the hottest quarterback, could easily throw for 300 plus yards. He's just been amazing with the touchdown passes, so he's always a very strong option at quarterback. Second guy is Dak Prescott. The Cowboys have like a 30 plus total right now going up against the Cleveland Browns. This game potentially can be a big time shootout. The Cowboys defense is so bad, so Prescott has to keep putting his team on his back. They keep getting down early because his defense just can't stop anybody, so they get down big. Prescott has to keep using his arm. At some point, could see like Ezekiel Elliott have a good game and a different game script if they play like a really poor opponent, but expecting a pretty high scoring game in this one. So like Dak Prescott a lot. He has big time upside with his arm and also with his legs, as he's already showed this year. Next up is probably one of my favorites, is Deshaun Watson. He's 6,600 and 7,800 respectively. Probably one of my top plays at both sites, just with that price tag on him makes him just super appealing. Going up against a Minnesota Vikings defense that has been getting absolutely torched this season. They have been giving up huge big plays to basically every single team that they faced so far in the first 3 weeks. They couldn't even hold on to a victory that they had kind of in their grasp last week against the Titans. So I really do expect Watson to take advantage of the best matchup that he's had so far. Watson has had some very tough matchups. From a defensive standpoint, he's faced like 3 of the best teams or 3 of the better defenses in football, especially the last 2 weeks. Now he's facing a Vikings team that has given up a combined averaging well over 30 points per game given up to opponents. They gave up 43 to Aaron Rodgers in week 1. They gave up 28 to the Colts and gave up 31 last week. So really expect Watson at home in his dome to really have a really big week this week. So he's my favorite, probably at the quarterback position, which is why he's highlighted. Then you have Drew Brees at 5,800. I think early in the week I would like Brees a little bit more. He's still like the safer option out of anybody below 6,000. He's the safest option. But I will have some extra cap left over this week after just going through some lineups with some more injury news that we've gotten. So I don't know if I will need to go that cheap at quarterback. But Brees still on the list against the Detroit Lions. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick is 5,400. He's getting talked up a little bit this week. So if that's the case, I will not be playing him because a chalk Fitzpatrick is the last thing I really want to do. But he's in play, so I'm going to put him on there. And I guess one guy that I probably could put on there is Matt Stafford, just because the Saints' secondary is also banged up. They're going to be missing 2 of their better corners, especially in Marshawn Lattimore's out for this one. So he still gets his weapon, Galladay, back for a second week. So hopefully, he looks even better, and the connection is even stronger between the two. And then you have Drew Brees at 5,800. He's still on the list against the Detroit Lions. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick is 5,400. He's getting talked up a little bit this week. So if that's the case, I will not be playing him because a chalk Fitzpatrick is the last thing I really want to do. But he's in play, so I'm going to put him on there. And I guess one guy that I probably could put on there is Matt Stafford, just because the Saints' secondary is also banged up. They're going to be missing 2 of their better corners, especially in Marshawn Lattimore's out for this one. So he still gets his weapon, Galladay, back for a second week. So hopefully, he's even Moving on to running backs on this week for tomorrow. Alvin Kamara. I was hoping Michael Thomas played just because the ownership would be a little bit less on Kamara. But now everybody's going to play Kamara, and I do not want to not play him because he's probably going to get like 25 touches maybe in this game against Detroit. It's probably going to be pretty high scoring, especially if any of the volume comes on the Saints side. They're not only missing Michael Thomas again, but the tight end Jared Cook is out. Breeze has just looked and just locked eyes with Kamara in the passing game the last 2 weeks. Hasn't really gotten much out of Emmanuel Sanders this far this season. So Kamara, he's just a guy in the red zone. They look to him. Always has that 2-3 touchdown upside that not that many people have. So he's at the top of the running back list. Elliott, Cook are second and third, respectively. I think maybe Cook can jump Elliott if he wants, and just with the matchup. But Elliott hasn't really hasn't had a monster game yet, but that's mainly because of Dak Prescott is having to throw 50, 60 times a game and throw for 400 plus yards. Elliott's going to have one big game on the ground very soon. Could definitely be this week against the Browns defense. So he's on the list. Cook is on the list against Houston. They're really bad on the ground, even though they have some good guys that can put pressure on the quarterback. But Cook should be able to build off of last week's performance in another really positive matchup. And then we have Austin Eckler. Checks in at a really good price point, especially on Fanduel. That is really appealing there. The Chargers offense is going to be missing Mike Williams this week, so another guy that will probably get more opportunities for. Not that Williams was getting a ton of targets, but just to take another big receiver out, you could see Eckler line up more as a receiver this week because they really have Keenan Allen as the only guy that's going to be making a factor at the receiving position with Mike Williams out. So definitely see Eckler play a lot more, maybe him alongside with Joshua Kelly. And then James Robinson against Cincinnati. I don't normally want to get too crazy with this game between the Jaguars and the Bengals, but Robinson, I guess, is one piece that I like on Jacksonville. You could be really sneaky and stack Minshew, Robinson, and Chark, but I don't think I will do that in my one lineup. And then now Joe Mixon is questionable, so you could look at Giovanni Bernard if he ends up sitting. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 6,400 on DraftKings. He looks really good, except I just remember that game is no longer on the slate, so cross that out. We can play him on Tuesday night during that showdown, so that's just another running back to take off the list. Darrell Henderson, 5,800, looks really good. Akers is out again this week, so we'll be starting at running back. Malcolm Brown just kind of lost some touches after week one where he looked good with that 2 touchdown performance. He has taken a backseat to Henderson the last couple weeks, and Henderson can run all over this Giants defense, also can catch a bunch of passes too. And then Mike Davis is like a really strong play. I like him on both sites against the Cardinals. He is just kind of taking that, now he's not Alvin Kamara role, but similarly gets that similar kind of playing time and similar kind of usage with the receiving yardage and the carries. No other running back on the Panthers saw more than 5 carries last week, so it's really Mike Davis that they're going to trust to get the carries in there in passing situations too. I love getting my running backs that not only rush for a bunch, but also catch passes. Just gives them such a high floor. It gives them a lot higher chance of being in the optimal. At the wide receiver position, Keenan Allen was the thumbnail of the Tuesday video that I posted, and as the week has gone on, my love for Keenan Allen has gone even higher. Think he is in a really good spot this week. A slot receiver against Tampa Bay. Gonna get peppered with targets. Even now with Hopkins as a game time decision, Keenan Allen looks like one of the best wide receiver options at his price tag. He's just way too cheap on both sites, especially on DraftKings at 6,500. If you want to pay up a bit, Amari Cooper, he is getting peppered with targets. Hasn't gotten one into the end zone yet the first 3 weeks, which is pretty surprising considering how many points the Cowboys have scored every single week. But I think this could be the week against Cleveland where he ends up getting into the end zone. So 6,700, he's on the list. Metcalf is on the list. Should have had 2 touchdowns last week against Miami. Last week against whoever they played last week. I can't remember, but the Cowboys. So should have had 2 touchdowns against the Cowboys. Now he's going up against a Miami team who gives up a huge amount of big plays. There's no corner on that team that can stop Metcalf one-on-one. They're going to have to really try hard to slow him down. So Metcalf is the most expensive receiver that I like this slate. I'm not going to be going more expensive than Metcalf. And then Mike Evans looks good. And then Mike Evans looks great. He is 6,400 on DraftKings. That price tag is really nice. 74 on Fanduel. It's still nice as well. Like him on both sites. He looks great this week with no Fournette and no Godwin. So he should get a lot of the looks from Tom Brady this week against a Chargers team that could, I don't know if that many people will be targeting this game heavily, but I like going with Keenan Allen and Mike Evans, running it back that way. Kenny Golladay is now in play. He is 6,000 on DraftKings against the Saints. More expensive on FanDuel. I think I prefer Evans a little bit more, but 6K on DraftKings looks nice without Lattimore for the Saints. Will Fuller looks like a tremendous pairing with Deshaun Watson. He is super cheap on both sides. He is the number one weapon for Watson. He has pretty decent amount of targets in 2 out of 3 games. Week 2, he just didn't get any catches. I think he left the game for a bit with an injury. If you look at the snap counts, just wasn't on the field as much as he has been in the first and third weeks. Odell Beckham is really nicely priced across the industry. Seems like he is getting talked up this week, which is completely fine and reasonable given the matchup. The only concern is that the Browns don't throw the football that much. Now, this could change this week if they're down, or just depending on how this game goes, but they really rely on the running game with them. But I think Odell Beckham looks pretty solid this week anyways. And then Parker and Watkins, 2 guys that I don't think will get a ton of love, but I like their prices, especially Watkins at 4,400. Moving on to tight end, Darren Waller is at the top. Ruggs is doubtful for this one, so he played last week, did Waller, but just was banged up, didn't look 100%, didn't really have a good game at all. Expecting him to bounce back this week. He's still Derek Carr's favorite weapon. Nice price tag on DraftKings. You have Hawkinson checks in pretty nicely too against the Saints, who have been getting torn up against tight ends this year. And the injuries to their defense isn't going to make things easier this week. I like Hawkinson to have a decent week. Henry, I like his price tag, especially on DraftKings at 46. But Dalton Schultz sticks out on FanDuel at 4,900, even on DraftKings 43. Browns are also bad against tight ends. Schultz is on the field during most of the passing down situation. They're bailing there for a lot of run blocking at times, but he's playing about 70% of the snaps so far at tight end, which is a really nice number. He looks great in a potential shootout this week. And then Akins, I guess, he looks pretty solid. I like him. 3,300, great bargain if you need a cheap tight end. 49, I'll prefer Schultz on FanDuel. But DraftKings like that price tag if you need a cheap tight end. He has been outplaying Fells in terms of snap counts by a huge margin. Last year was Fells getting, basically splitting time. This year has been like 70% Akins. So he looks good on DraftKings. And then defenses, not a ton that jumps out. I guess just go cheap kind of at defense this week. If you want to pay up, we pay up for the Ravens defense. They're the top defense on the slate. They're also the most expensive defense on the slate, so it depends how your lineup looks. Then you have the Colts. Like them a lot, especially on DraftKings at 3,300. This weather in this game is also looking a little bit iffy, so that's just going to help the defenses on both sides. So that's why I think both defenses are in play. And then I think the Texans are in play too at 2,500. Going up against Cousins, they did go off last week, so maybe people think that Cousins is all of a sudden a really good quarterback and they are all over Cousins. Personally, Cousins has been the most inconsistent quarterback, or one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks over the past couple years, especially the beginning of this year. He was awful the first 2 games, looked okay last week, or at least pretty good last week. But now the Texans have a team that can put pressure on the quarterback. They can make life miserable for Cousins in the pocket. 2,500, I think they look good as a cheap defense. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and best of luck.